It's spooky season for me all year round, but I got 5 more horrors that I think would be good for your spooky season reading. The Reddening by Adam Nevill. This is such a moody, slow burn folk horror, and this is where Adam Nevill shines. But the pacing is more like a Netflix miniseries than a standalone movie. What I loved most about this story is that it grabbed my attention from the get-go. You're dropped into the high stakes element and it just slowly builds in tension and dread from there. And that's where this book shines for me. Now, regarding the pacing, with Neville's writing, and I've experienced this with his other book, The Last Days, he's kind of telling you this story in a layered narrative where you're bouncing back and forth between time frames. Meaning you'll start a chapter where something has already happened that you don't know. And you'll find out what that is in the following chapter. And the whole book is kind of like this ping pong. And I admit that it did wear on me a bit, but I still enjoyed this story nonetheless, and I would read it again and I would recommend it. I'd say if you found yourself enjoying the folk horror masterpiece that is Midsummer, then I think that you would enjoy The Reddening. So moving over to the OG in the horror game, Clive Barker. I read Books of Blood Volume 2, and let me tell you, he's an OG for a reason, and his Books of Blood collection just proves why. What I love most is that all of his stories don't lean on buckets of gore to scare you, but I will say the kills are definitely creative. You get a mix of creature feature, cosmic horror, and people put into these unimaginable, impossible scenarios. He builds that dread, he builds that unease, and some of these stories just having your skin crawl. And it's not about the characters facing death, but it's the worst ways that it can actually come for you. So if you haven't checked out that short story collection, I believe there are 5 or 6 volumes. I'm definitely going to be continuing in that series. So let's move over and get a taste of Possession with The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. This is one of those books that starts off slow but does reward your patience, and I have read another book by Isabel Cañas, and I would say that's pretty much her bag. The first half feels more like a historical fiction. It dives into caste, the societal expectations around women in Latin society, before it finally moves into the horror story about midpoint through the book, so have a little patience. Now, once that horror possession starts to take hold, the story takes off. So even though I feel like the build up to the supernatural could have been smoother, I still think this is a good story. The second half redeems it, and it has strong themes about a woman moving from one prison to another. We need to talk about Portrait of a Nuclear Family, because this was the definition of WTF did I just read. It is dark, violent, and really grounded in reality because this can actually happen. This story follows a mother whose son starts to show signs that something is really wrong with him. And it spirals really fast into this wild escalation of dread as she tries to figure out how to protect her son. What I loved most about this is that it was about the impossible choices that somebody must make to protect someone that they love, even if that person ain't doing right. I will never pass up a case of twisted loyalty. And the ending was both satisfying and haunting. So if you like stories about dark family dynamics, definitely Obsession, this is a must read. And lastly, let's jump back over to Clive Barker with The Hellbound Heart. This is the novella that starts the Hellraiser series. And I admit, I could not make it through the Hellraiser movie. I tapped out pretty early, but this story made it more accessible for me. It's one of those be careful what you wish for kind of horrors where all of the characters' motivations were driven by some level of obsession. I'm starting to notice a theme here in my reading that I love obsessions. You've got a neighbor obsessed with her friend who's married to a woman who's obsessed with his brother, whose brother is obsessed with finding pleasure in the most twisted ways. When I tell you these loyalties make absolutely no sense, but that's kind of the point. You got all of these twisted obsessions in this soup of cosmic horror. He just digs into what makes people do the things that they do for the things or people that they crave. This, in my opinion, is cosmic horror done right. A must read. So let me know what have been your favorite reads this spooky season so far, and if any of these creepy reads have caught your eye. And I'll see you in the next video. Happy reading.